Today, though, we'd like to turn our attention to broadcast electronics and the coalition they have with TRE Plus. And Rich Redmond is here, Shane Tobin is here, Bud Williamson is here, and they want to talk about getting the information from your studio onto the dashboards of listeners, how to do that better, how to take advantage of the features. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you, Rich, and talk to
Th-
us.
Thanks, Barry. And thanks, everyone. Mary, thanks for the support so we can have this event today. Uh, I got a few things to share to kind of set the stage about what we're talking about. Can you guys see a
Yep.
big blue globe? Okay. So visual radio content, just when we thought we were in the audio business, I think we've kind of come to learn that with today's radios, there's a lot more that you can put out. And so kind of under the why it's important. So I'll talk a little bit about what the platform is and the why, and then Bud and Shane are both guys who've been implementing and using it. And I thought, there's nothing better than to hear guys in the trenches who are using it than, just me talking about it. So, uh, today, so many cars have high resolution screens. Some of this actually comes from government mandated backup cameras in cars, right? So as more and more cars on the road have backup cameras, they have to have a screen. Many of them now are quite high resolution. So of course the infotainment systems all tie into that. And so the ability to display something is way beyond just having some LED characters on the front of the screen of the radio that has the frequency. So the good news is that's driving into cars without anything we really need to do as a broadcaster. And, to that end, about 80% of the cars on the road today can see some sort of visual display just on analog radio with RDS. So whether it's, like I say, LED, like the picture to the top right, or it's, something more like a high-end car that's got larger screens in it or a newer, they don't even have to be high-end, just newer designs. There's quite a rich media platform for displays. About 25% of the cars on the road actually have HD radio or hybrid radio, and they can display full color graphics. So the good news is, in this case, there's a lot of things driving the receiver end, which, sometimes for us in broadcasting, we can turn on the transmit end or enable it in the studio, but it's hard to drive user adoption. There's a lot of other things driving the adoption of these displays besides a user saying, I need to go buy a radio that I can see graphics on. So that's the technology side. The part that who cares, the guys at Westwood One did some research, and this is pretty interesting. 70% of people who listen to the radio pay attention to the content on the screen. So whether it's artist and title information or station logo information or, the radio program you're listening to, um, two-thirds can actually recall that they saw something on the screen and and that it relates to advertisements they heard. And the interesting thing is there's about a 30% better recall when you have both audio and visual content. Uh, and out of those that saw it, 85% actually said they had plans to go to a retailer's location and make some buys. So, the kind of business end, which we don't always think about as technologists, is not only does this give a customer a bit better user experience, but for one of the times we can show up at the general manager's office and say, "Hey, I've got a way you can make some more money," rather than just asking, for money to pay for keeping the ship running. So the radio experience is a product that BE's had for a really long time. Really, the first product that managed RDS and displays, and then into HD radio. In the past year, we totally revamped the platform, added new capabilities, moved it to being hosted on AWS with contemporary software. And it allows you to manage what's showing up on your radio, but also to other platforms. So it could go to apps or the website or your streaming platform. And really just the point here is the kind of graphic is whether it's stuff from your playout system, it's weather information, it's RSS and sports feeds, real-time information you can type in. We could ingest things like emergency alerts. I mentioned advertising messages, but also metadata lookup. So whether it's album art, but it also, if you're a public broadcaster, it could be there's a lot of great metadata available on Metapub that can be associated with the programs. Um, and then it can push out on all the different platforms. So not just RDS. The good news is that's the most common and the lowest cost. So just about everyone with an FM station or a translator for an AM or for an HD2 can get started. Of course, HD radio, if we were outside of the US, it's DAB. Also can feed information off to hybrid radio like radio DNS or auto stage and streaming. So kind of think it as TRE Plus is really like a traffic cop that kind of helps bring in all this information and help you point where you're sending it to and organize what the information looks like. And so with that, that's just kind of a high level what it is. And I'd invite Bud to maybe share a little bit about kind of maybe a little bit about the stations you're on, Bud, and kind of what you're doing in your facilities. And I think you may even have some images to share. So I'll hand it off to you if you're okay taking it.
Oh yeah. Um, we just well, you know what? I'll wait on sharing my screen first because the first thing I want to say is this works well, and you may not realize how well it works until you hear back from your listeners or your advertisers. So I've got some stations as well as the engineering business, and um, as I've been testing and programming this and setting this up over the past period of time, we had a situation, and Rich loves this story, um, where my wife maintains an account, Tire Discount Center. The guy signs an annual contract. She goes in right around Christmas time to sign the new contract to start January 1st. The guy says to her, "Hey, somebody come in and tell me that they saw my name and saw my message on the radio." And she was like, yeah, yeah. She knew I was working on this, but he's like, "That's pretty cool. So it's right on the radio." And the guy showed me, and there it was. I had been testing, and I still have his message up right now, and I'll show you that shortly. And it came back to the business. Um, and the business mentioned it to the station. I think the guy wants to buy and have that. My wife is continually asking me, "Is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready?" And I just want to make sure it's all perfect, and I have some plans together before releasing it. But as engineers, switching hats here, this is something that you can take to your programming people and to your ownership, because it's very, very simple, and it is much less costly than what else is out there. And it gives you everything with one exception, and that is it can't post an image on AutoStage. So if you take this to your stations, and I'm sure if you talk with Rich, he can work with you to help ease you in and train your people on this. It is not hard. It is not hard to do. Barry, I'm going to go ahead and share from which I think this will do that. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Let me just move this down. I mean, this is what is up at the tower site. This is what it's saying right now, which you're used to. Everybody sees this. Look at the message that just came up now. So there are clocks that you can set up that will allow you to put different messages up and rotate them for whatever duration you want. This is so flexible. You'll see this change again. And again, we're looking at the RDS unit. If you look up here on the on air now, this is the back end showing that what it's going to send out. And actually, sometimes on the back end there, it's a little bit behind. It's always current on what it's sending out to your RDS boxes. But just so you see what's happening there, here are my stations. Here's the image that it's sending for wall, take on me. DLC right now is just is playing a logo, and that's because right now this could be in a commercial break or something. Um, oh, you know what this is? This is a an artist, and there was so much data in the song title that it abbreviated it. So that's why it said the artist and the station. And then here is a message under WDLC, Michelle Taylor, weekday mornings. Over here, the Pike, and that'll rotate through. I'm going to focus on wall because that's our moneymaker, and I have so many things set up here. Showing you the clocks here. You can have any number of clocks. These are very, very simple to set up. So I'm going to take this clock here that says wall in music. So this is when it's playing a song. And what I've done here is it's playing title and artist for 30 seconds, a commercial message for 30 seconds. It goes back and does title and artist for 30 seconds. And then I'm doing a promo. You can do anything you want. You can add in different types of messages. If you drop down here, there are cover messages, generics, images, promos, weather. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But this is very, very simple to set up. Oh, and you can create clocks for different day parts and all of that. It's very, very simple. Messages. Oh, and then the other thing is, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So that's just when a song is playing. When you're in a commercial break, in this case here, I have a commercial, a cover message that's set up, right? So it only has one thing in there, right, for 30 seconds, and it'll keep on repeating. Let's go down and look at the messages. And if I come over and take a look, I'll do wall. I'm going to do, let's do covers. And what we play when we're playing a commercial break right now is any one of these four. These will rotate. And this should preview it and show me what it's going to look like. That's what's playing when the commercials are playing. One other thing that you can do is you can link spots so that once the spot is playing in a break, you can, and I'll show that to you as well. I just have to get to that. Search. And that's set up right here. And I'm going to move this so I can edit this. So when a tire discount center commercial would come on, it will put the message up. And I have to have bear with me a second on this. I set this up a little while ago. And well, these are my commercials that are rotating. It's a commercial test. I feel bad. Now this is so powerful, and the guy, Max, keeps on working on things here. I have to go to linked. This is my bad here. He's probably cursing me out as he's watching. These are my spots that I have linked right now. I'm doing this over the weekend. So when event ID 13815 plays, anytime, it's going to put up this message, Fusion Eyewear. And then style for less. I put some additional information and, of course, whatever else I can fit in those positions. Here's what your DPS looks like. You can break this out. Your radio text. Whoops. That's my bad. So, but the point here is it is very, very simple to set up, and I've watched this grow. I've asked questions, and sometimes I overthought it and said, wow, this is way, way, way too much. And it isn't. The last thing I want to show you if I go back, logos, we could plug in logos. There are pictures for the jocks that are on the air. I can't get down there. Let's stop there. Because up here, there's another clock talk program, and this will run through. I have this running on 2 stations, and it's going to run through and put up a picture and a message of the jock that's on the air. And the way it does that is I'm back in messages, and I come over here and I go to program talk and search, because this is meant to, when you have a long form program on perhaps, or if a disc jockey is talking, this will come up. And the setup was again, very, very simple. This guy is on from 3 to 7. This is one thing that will always double check is your end date. But I got a picture of him over here so that when he's on the air and it rotates in, his picture, his mugshot will show up. So this is really, I mean, I've had so much fun setting this up and working with Charlie and Hector and Max in exploiting this. Here's another thing is weather. And I know Max is on, I believe he's on watching, and we just finished this up here. I can't seem to get this to scroll down far enough on my screen, but down here, if you take a look at wall weather, I have a template that will provide the current temp, and then I default in as part of that temp degrees at wall radio. And if I go over here, maybe I can set this here. We can get a better view of this. Yeah, current temp, degrees at wall radio. It's not including the file that it gets linked to here. So that's the only thing that I can't show you right here, because this is meant for adding or updating a forecast. But I can make this say anything when this weather cut plays WWX-EXE. It's kind of redundant that I put temperature in there. Most dashboards already have that. But again, I'm playing around to see how it works. Tire Discount Center sponsors our weather. So this will probably become a Tire Discount Center spot. So
Where does the weather information come from, Bud? Looks
So
like you had a link to a site or
yeah,
something.
yes. So man, I've got to give you guys credit on this one. There are 2 places it comes from, NOAA or Weather API. Been using Weather API. It's more flexible. If you want to go and figure out your area, like I want to build a template, we can build one right now. I'm in New York, so I'm just going to come in here and say, all right, I am here, somewhere around there. It picks up the coordinates, and then I can start building out that template right here. It's going to look at this area, find the nearest weather station, and get weather for that. It gets very, very, I don't want to say it gets tricky, but it's so advanced where you can put in like tomorrow's forecast. What I learned, these are messages you have to day part, right? And you have to like forecast tomorrow. I don't necessarily want to run that overnight. I want to have the forecast that's for today, things like that. But that's where the weather is coming from. And it's pretty slick. I'm using it to look at temperature to see it update, and it updates nicely. I've been careful, like you can have a forecast, which is very simple forecast today, forecast tomorrow, but I don't want it to conflict with the meteorologist I have on the air. So I haven't put that on. And then, of course, you do have conditions too. And that's probably something I can put in there as well. That answer your question?
Yeah, thanks, Bud. I knew it came from a source and that it just linked right in the system. I guess I didn't remember that you could just put a pin down where you wanted the forecast. That's pretty cool.
This is so slick. If you go to NOAA up here, and I don't know, I haven't really been using it. You go and try to find a station. Yeah, I'm clicking here. I probably need to go to New York and then find a station here. But I, we've kind of, okay, there they are. They're populating. That's what had to happen. I know. Max is watching this saying, just wait, just wait. Um, but we've been using Weather API and I think it seems more accurate than NOAA. Just my gut. And just coming back here, I keep on rotating stuff in and out. We can, see what's happening on the RDS boxes, and it's amazing. Um, I've got to give Rich and the team credit for what they've done. The worst part of this struggle that I'm going to have, that I now have to get into, is switching hats and putting my station owner hat on and pricing out what we're going to charge for this. See, now it just went and displayed Tire Discount Center, and on the HD, it will show a logo. Which, let me show you the setup real quick. I've got time. Am I good here?
Yeah,
Are
I
we
think
good,
you're okay.
guys? Okay. So I'm looking at wall here. This is my, busiest station. You set up a source, which is extremely simple. It could be different sources. I'm using Playout 1. I was an AudioVault user for 20 years. I just want to make sure everybody's aware. Rich knows that as well. But right now we're using Playout 1. It was very attractive because of the subscription model. And if you look at how this is set up, this will interface with any automation system. Doesn't matter. Doesn't need to be AudioVault. Could be Playout 1. Could be plenty. Could be anything else. Here they all are, as a matter of fact. So, and if your system isn't here, or if you've cooked one up, I know that Max will get with you and, create the hooks necessary. So I am sending all this data just on this machine on my server, my Playout 1 server, and that's where I have a TRE client. Everything else is in the cloud, but I have the client loaded on, and the client is what's communicating with the automation, and then it actually does the transmission out to the RDS boxes. It goes out to the cloud to get everything it needs. So, this is coming in. This station is on port 5007. So, pick a port that works, that is not encumbered by another application on your system. Again, it was very, very simple. Over here, I'm going to show you how I set up. I've got a number of RDS boxes. So Wall Radio, being very close to New York City, no way to shoehorn in another Class A station. So I ended up buying a Wall Radio, an AM station. As part of that deal, I ended up getting a long-term lease on WPDH HD2. And that's a Class B, so 50 kilowatt station, covers a lot of ground. So I've got a bunch of fill-in translators that are either using the AM wall as a primary, or they're using WPDH HD2. And I'm also experimenting where I'm getting ready to do something on the HD4, but I'm going to take a look at this setup. As you would expect with any RDS box, you determine what it is. Okay, so through here, you have a choice. There's an Avonics in there. The Divas are in here as well. Omnias, I'm setting up another one right now that is going to a Nautel transmitter, and look at that. That's not in here, but unless I'm missing it, but that is something I'm sure can be worked on pretty quickly. And of course, I'm just using a standard port. Again, this is how simple it is. You do set up your PS and your RT separately. I don't know why it's that way. That may have been how Max was able to code it. I'm also feeding auto stage. Oops, I don't need to click that. So again, there is there's like a config file on the client machine, which is my server back at the studio there. And there's a section in there that has the specifics, the login specifics into where to send the auto stage data to. It's so simple. That's stuff you get from Xperi. And then of course, well, I'm using SecureNet. Whoops, same deal. The definitions, where to send to, all that stuff is in that other file. Uh, it, it it was really, this part was very easy to set up, and it all just worked. Um,
How many different outputs are you on there? So all those
so,
boxes with the chord icon are different
oh yeah,
translators and HD2s, right?
oh yeah. So I mean, I can jump around from like if I sit out in my driveway, or if I'm more central to all the signals, I can run around. All of this stuff is updating all the time. It is. I got to say, it's quick. People may say it goes to the cloud. There's a delay. There's issues there. I haven't experienced it. On my studio end, I've got a 1 gig DIA fiber, uh, right now provided by Frontier, but that's going to move over to Crown Castle at some point. But I don't have problems with connectivity like like we may have had in the old days. So, there's some other setup you can do, like up here. This is where you're defining how it's going to display, and artist, title, dash, wall radio. If your information, you may have seen this elsewhere, if your artist and title is so much data, and I forget what the threshold is, maybe it is 64 characters, I don't think it is, but it'll drop off, or you can drop off something. So in this case here, and we saw this before in WDLC, the artist and the title must have been a song with a long name. If I take you out tonight, it's country. Um, and so it just displayed the artist and wall radio, right? Because it's rotating. I'm rotating pretty quick, and you want to be cautious with how much data you're displaying at once. Um, there is a default message that can send here. This is actually, like, this is new since last night, but um, your images that you send to your HD, you can define, and then once you set this as a 50, this makes sure the images aren't too big for the importer and the MSAC to handle. Ask me how I know. Because I've been, in some cases up here, when you take a look at your cover art, I don't have control over all of it. There's some I put in, but this is all stuff that the system downloads as it's playing the songs. So it goes out and it will find the image art, and it will add it into the database here. And I believe some of these songs need to be, or some of these pictures need to be resized. So I know Max has been working on making that fit. And really, you're looking to send a 200 by 200 pixel file, not to exceed 24 kilobit, right? For your HD. Uh, what else can I show here, Rich? Oh, let's take a look at,
What do you do on your non-com station, Bud? That's a jazz format, I see. So I know there are
well,
going
it
to be
was a
some.
jazz format.
Oh,
So right
okay.
now it's, if anybody knows Joel Sokowitz, who was in a prior life program, Hot 97 in New York, he's doing that Pulse 87 thing. So I'm actually rebroadcasting him on that. He doesn't play any commercials, so we're that's my next adventure, is to get data out of his automation system, which is at his house down in Westchester County, and kind of port that in. But I wanted to get wall done in part so we could look at it here and see what it's doing, and then I'll work on that. And plus, I can make money with this. Here comes Tire Discount Center. So, and then here is kind of what I was looking at before, or looking for. This is really the client, and it's very lightweight. Max has done a great job on this, and there's plenty of info. You don't even have to have this up. I've got, multiple instances of this running, right? You can see them all here, Y and Y, DLC, but I'll come back here to wall, and it will tell you what it's doing. And of course, you can go in and there are logs, right? So if I wanted to go and actually I'm going to take a look at this one because this is a newer one, and I'm copying pasting this log because the program is still writing to the other log. But yeah, I can go through here and if something missed or if something wasn't happening properly, I could see actually, am I looking at his log? I was on the wrong log there because there was another playout one debug log going on. So this is the one we need to be in. It's telling you everything it did, at what time, what message it sent. Right? And it makes sure it tells you every location that it's sending to based on what I defined on destinations.
Yeah, and related to the logs, if you want real-time verification, we've actually proven that out with the Inovonics Sophia receivers, right, for HD and for
Yes.
RDS. So if you want a closed loop to go, not only did the log say I sent it, but I want to make sure it showed up on the screens. If you have one of those receivers for the station, it can suck that data back in and compare to the log.
So one other thing on RDS, and you guys probably know this already, but I mean, we used to, in the early days, we're looking at injection of like 3%. I'm doing 6% injection, and I do set, and this is something that I learned not too long ago because it was kind of like something I didn't really mess with. I just left it at its default. But I learned that you want your subcarrier relative phase shift to be about 30 degrees. And I just haven't pulled out, the scope to do this alignment. And this apparently comes back as a number that works. So for best performance, all things considered, your antenna's right, all that other stuff. I do 6% and I set that to 30. And this plays very well. I don't have dropouts. As you can see, we're running through data fairly quickly here. I'm not going slow. And it does work, and it keep your messages brief. This is one thing I learned when using a different system. When you have your advertising message in here, don't put so much in there that it can't roll through. There's a belief that, or a study that was done that said that you should play your title and artist for 90 seconds and then play your ad message for 30 seconds and then go back for the rest of the song and display title and artist. In a market that I'm in an area that I'm in, I want to try to get value for my businesses that are on the air. I want to make sure they see their message. So I've been doing 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And that's working for me. You can set it to whatever you want, but I was told once before I had to set it for 90 seconds for the title and artist and then 30 seconds for the ad message. And, the company was charging the business a bunch of money. And the guy was like, where's my ad? How come I don't see it? And we're trying to say, you got to wait 90 seconds. 90 seconds is eternity, is an eternity while you're waiting for this message to show up. Um, that's later. Let me go to my pictures here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Let me just go up here. I got a wonky mouse. So this is what my radio looks like. I do have auto stage, but here's our data, and a picture. Let me find, I wanted to show you guys something else I had done. This is my message during a newscast. So this was the cover message, market your business on wall radio, go to wallradio.com. And again, you could rotate those. Here's the temperature. Remember I was showing you how the temperature, you could program that in. So right now, even though it doesn't say so over here, this says CBS News, the weather came on. It was just when I snapped the picture. And it's just a timing thing because this goes out to out to DTS. So there's my temperature or whatever message I associate with that file. Let me see what else I had here. I think just had that. I don't think I had I mean, when the news is on, I have it say wall news here. Again, you can cover that with an ad or with any other message you want to put in there. So, and that's
Yeah, it's great, bud.
yeah, I got to tell you guys, here's my tire discount center, that popped in again. Timing is everything. The RDS comes up quicker because that's direct connected. When I go out to auto stage, there's a little bit of latency. I can't control that. Um, I would answer, I mean, anybody that's going this direction, or if you need to talk to your ownership, I would give you some pointers. I would help you guys. I know Rich would as well. Um, it's something that I'm going to make some money with. Uh, and I think you guys can too. It's not difficult to set up. And Rich, you will work with stations, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. So I mean, the thing on this is there's no real upfront cost, right? It's a small monthly subscription. So, depending upon which mode you pick, it can be $50 a month. If you've got a bunch of HD and some other stuff, it's a little bit more and the advanced advertising, but it's generally less than $100 a month with everything you need. Uh, and most guys that are getting ad stuff for it are getting anywhere from 500 to $5,000 a month, depending on the size market you're in, just from one advertiser. So it's a pretty good deal. I don't know, Shane, maybe you could
Yeah.
chime in. You're running on a bunch of stations in your market, and
Yeah,
then we can get to questions with you and Bud afterwards. Is that okay?
yeah, absolutely. So, Bud, you covered a lot of what what I was already going to share here.
Okay. Well,
But I'll go ahead and I'll share
Well,
share.
his only works on the East Coast, Shane. I
yeah.
I, I think yours is geographically different. So
Yeah, so this is the Montana and Idaho version of
I mean, I
the
want to see what you're doing because
yeah.
yeah, I may catch an idea from you, but
Let me go back and see if I can share my screen here now. Come on. Oh, all right. Share. Let's share my desktop here. All right. Can you all see that?
yep, yeah, it's shown up.
Great.
Mhm.
All right. So, yeah, like Bud's system, I've got three markets, 30 stations in total. Right now, I've got it up and running kind of for the most part in just one of those three markets, but I'm working on getting that running in the other two markets. So I'll kind of give you just a little quick run through of what we're doing here. This is my Idaho Falls market, and they've got eight formats on the air. They broadcast them across a number of HDs, HD2s, and translators. They've also got an AM. for sports and news talk. We're not really doing a whole lot with that right now in terms of data, but that is something that we're looking at. The big one that I just started, and Bud, you kind of alluded to this as well, is sending artwork on our news talk station, because the
Mhm.
news talk station, of course, you're not going to get the constant feed of now playing data for album art. I mean, if in public radio they do, of course, send segments and things like that that maybe you can associate some artwork with. But yeah, when you're airing like long form programming, there's some things you can do. So, like for instance, our news talk here, KEOX. Oh, did I lose my VPN connection? It says I did. Try again here. I was going to show you some other stuff too, as long as my VPN connection stays up. All right, so like on our news talk station here, we've got the default logo that's transmitted when nothing else is happening. But I took a little bit different approach. But I know you had messages here. So, but I went into I've got my clocks here, and I set up a separate clock here just for my news talk station. That's basically, I treat them as cover messages. I know there are other ways to do this as well. There are a bunch of different types of messages that are supported. I mean, you've got commercial messages, cover messages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just, just for expediency, I set them up as cover messages. So I come here into my messages and I look at, let's look at my clocks here. Now they're not linked. We'll go to all. Okay. So if I look at my messages here, and again, this is the only station that I'm sending, kind of discrete day-parted timed messages on right now. It's my news talk station. So again, I've got Red Eye Radio here from pretty much 11 to midnight. And if I look at my preview here again, it kind of shows me what that's going to look like here. So for every one of my shows, including our the live morning show that we have here, um, I basically programmed in a day-parted cover message where it sends that artwork and that message out during that time. And that's actually something they've never had before on their news talk station. So they were pretty happy when I kind of showed them that. But yeah, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here going through some of the other stuff that that you already covered so well, Bill or Bud. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm kind of just in the early stages here. One of the next things I probably will implement are those weather features that you talked about. We've talked about maybe doing sports scores because we do a lot of high school sports as well. So we're looking at implementing some of that. But as far as like where the data goes, we've got the same kind of deal here. We've got our HD, an HD1 that it goes to. We're also sending it, we stream with SecureNet, so it's also sending it to SecureNet's API directly. And we encode for our stream with the Omnia 9. So we're sending to the Omnia 9 streaming encoder directly. That was something that they added support for not that long ago, which was really kind of cool. So you can actually pick which stream encoder within the Omnia 9 that you're
Yeah, I
targeting.
think we had you sent me a text about that or something, right, Shane, going, hey, it'd really
Yeah,
be cool if we could do this.
exactly. It's like, well, you support the RDS in the Omnia 9. What about the stream encoders? Oh, we hadn't thought about that. So, and there it is.
Yeah.
And it's worked out really well. So that provides the live data for our apps, and then the API updates the kind of ongoing kind of historical data. And on top of that, you mentioned, Bud, you mentioned RDS to the Nautel. You can, in
Yes.
fact, do that. We've got it set up. We're just using the generic
Okay.
UECP mode for that. So UECP, TCP targeted to port 7005. And I can look at that here. In fact, if I go here into my presets, look at my current settings. Yeah, that's what it looks like. You just set it for UECP over
Yes.
IP, and it'll take it in there and just and run with it. So it works. It works really well. The only thing about the Nautel encoder is it does not support RT Plus. So if you're looking to support RT Plus, unfortunately, I haven't found a way to support that in the Nautel encoder yet. Some of my other stations are, in fact, they're using the Pura encoders as well. So they are supporting. So if I look here, for instance, how do we get rid of this? There we go. Let's see. So they're doing it through the Omnia 9 in this case, like my like Arrow. Omnia 9 supports RT and RT Plus, and I'm setting it to the stream encoder on the Omnia 9 as well. And again, the PS field, SecureNet, the HD. Let's see here, go back here. Trying to find one where I've actually got the Pura encoder doing that as well. And I think it was Here we go. So like the Pira encoder, I am sending to the RT, the PS, and the RT Plus. So it'll actually send the title and artist data discretely with RT Plus and separate that out on radios that support that, which is kind of cool. Let's see. We'll talk a little bit about the sourcing. You mentioned you're using Playout One, but yeah, it does work really well with pretty much just about any automation system you can think of. I'm using Wide Orbit in this case. I've got a couple of my other two markets right now are transitioning from next gen to Wide Orbit, but I was using it with, it could just as easily be used with next gen or pretty much any other automation system you can think of that'll spit out this data. So there's the IP address of the radio server in this case, the port that I've got it assigned to, and I'm just looking at that location. The one mistake I've made in here a couple times, and gone, why am I not getting any data? And maybe this is something we can address with the developers, is I had it set up to do like 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. or something like that. It was like, so it wasn't actually sending out the data because the clock was wrong. So you do want to make sure, in fact, that it is set for 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. I somehow got into that mode a couple of times where it wasn't sending the data because the start and end times here were wrong. But that was my mistake, unfortunately. Um, let's see. Okay, while we're at that, yeah. So let's take a look here really quick, and I'll show you. I've got that set up. So if I come down here in my central server configuration for Wide Orbit, and I go to my Now Playing tab, you can set up in Wide Orbit text export definitions, but we're going to actually just use their native, we're using their native XML outputs. So if you go here to the event drivers, under Wide Orbit XML out, they want two different events. They want stack change, export XML, and on start play. Now, this was something that I didn't know about, and I hadn't initially set up. And there were some, let's just say, interesting results when I did not have that event type defined. So you want it to send out an update every time a song start happens. And then the rule mappings. So I have rule mappings here for each of my stations, and I have it for their main and their backup radio servers. And they're just mapped on different ports. And each of these got a different IP address as well. Each of these radio servers got a different IP address that it points to. So, but yeah, it's worked out really well. Shout out also to Innovonics and Ben Barber. I know that was a little mention earlier of the Sophia and that. I don't have my Sophias and Mod Monitor up in this market yet, although I do in my other two markets. I really should have them up in this market as
I
well.
thought you had a rack of like,
That
37
That's
receivers
in
or something
that's
like
in my
that.
Logan market. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find the photo of that. But that's in my Logan market, and I've got the Logan market. Actually, I do have not only the Sophias, but I've also got the 551 here in my rack. And the 551 is an absolutely amazing modulation monitor. If there's anything you ever want to know about an FM or HD signal, it will tell you exactly what's going on with those signals in real time, including your alignment, and then of course the listener experience screen, which is what we're all here for in this case. So it'll show you what your FM RDS is doing, and in this case, we don't have RT Plus on that one at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, there's the HD1 showing me title and artist there. The HD2, which because we feed a translator in another market and we split it away for ball games, we actually simulcast on that HD2. We've got a couple of stations in that market that are doing things like that. And then the HD3, which is our Juan format there. So yeah, there is again, shout out to Ben and Innovonics for a couple of amazing boxes with these the 551, 552, and the Sophias. So but yeah, just some quick little pictures here. This is the rack. This is the racks at my Idaho Falls market, so you can kind of see kind of the chaos here that's that's going on. That's all 8 of those formats coming out of there. But yeah, this was the when I first started doing some of that album art. So you can kind of see it. So this is an aftermarket Alpine receiver. It does a little strange thing here, and I talked to them about this, where there's a black border around the album art. I haven't seen this on other receivers, but this particular Alpine receiver, for some reason, they shave a few pixels off just to improve the transmission time, to shorten the transmission time a little bit. And for some reason, this receiver shows that, but others don't. So there's my station logo for KUPI. One thing I will make a big deal out of, you want to make sure that your data in your automation system is accurate, right? Since we'd migrated from next gen to wide orbit, there was a lot of data that was not accurate. So you wound up with things like this, which obviously is not ideal on the air. You don't want to be seeing stuff like that. So, but otherwise, it's looking really sharp, and we've been really happy with it. So.
So was that one of the earlier ones you had? Was that from your talk station, Shane? It looked like was that like the Mark Levin program
Yeah,
or
the Mark
something?
Levin program here. That was that was on the News Talk station. When
Oh,
I
that
said,
looks really good.
yeah. No, it does. It looks really sharp when you've got an image associated with the program that's on that day part. And I can't wait to start implementing some advertiser-oriented visual messaging as well. And I think they'll really be impressed by that once they start seeing it. Again, it's just one of those projects that
Oh, I don't think you have enough projects going on at
Right,
once.
right. It's not like I'm in the middle of, Axia quasar installations and wide orbit migrations in the other two markets at the same time.
Yeah, right. And I think I called Shane up and said, "Hey, maybe we should do something so you have some images to go along with that." So in addition to your automation and studio build out, you said, "I think I'll take this project on."
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it works really well. Right now when there's spot blocks playing, we just go back to the logo. So you can see here with my yeah, like for instance, wants me to that's right. I have to remind I lost my VPN connection briefly, so it got unhappy. But
Rich,
so it
Yeah.
goes.
last spring at the NAB, there was a session that specifically was dealing with the differences in car displays. And I wonder if you have anything that you can add to that or discuss what might be a problem for users.
Yeah, I know there was kind of a survey of kind of the displays and how things behaved that was shared, which is pretty useful. I think what we've kind of found a little bit like Shane's noted is sometimes you just have to see what happens because some of these things it's particular to a specific image or uh, specific graphics. The good news is it seems everything tech like RDS is now pretty widely implemented, and that seems really well behaved across lots of different radios. It's kind of the HD images that seem to be a little more suspect. I don't know, Bud, Shane, maybe you guys have comments relative to that.
Yeah, and actually in my previous role, we did a lot of research in terms of what worked on what receiver displays, and actually had a well, Rich, maybe you saw it. I don't remember if you ever saw it back in the tech shop back in the lab where we had a rack of aftermarket receivers. And kind of used that to look at what RDS and HD metadata would look like on various aftermarket receivers. And the best recommendation I can give now is to just go to various car dealerships and take a look and see what those factory radios are doing in various trim levels. And I will say, they've gotten a lot better than they used to be. I mean, it used to be just like the wild, wild west out there. But what I recommend is do keep your messaging as short as practical, if possible. And like this, I mean, this shows up nice and clean, but as
Is this what you would call a lowest common denominator?
yeah, I would say you want to at least serve the lowest common denominator. So, like here, we'll go back to let's see here. Like for instance, when we set up those messages, and again, kudos to the team at TRE for this. When you come in and edit any of these messages, it shows you kind of a simulation of what this stuff's going to look like. So it'll show you what the dynamic PS would look like on a radio that scrolls, 8 characters at a time, and that's actually a really great little guideline there to look at. So like here, it'll show me here's the HD information that I've entered for that particular message. I look at my dynamic PS, and it'll show me how that's being split up in the dynamic PS, and you can adjust that on a message by message basis, which is also really kind of cool. And same with the RT Plus, you can specify what shows up in RT Plus if you're sending RT Plus, because it'll give you discrete title and artist fields that you can populate, much like the HD metadata. So
That's great.
yeah,
I don't know, Barry, I
One
know.
thing I'll add
Yeah,
is when you're doing your messages, you add, I mean, Shane, the time got you. What
Hmm.
got me was the end date on
Mm.
your message because the start date and the end date default to the same. And
You'll
so many,
notice.
yeah, so many times I set up
Yeah, I
something.
was going to say you've got a pretty far looking end date there, Shane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we call
exactly.
a TFN.
Exactly. Yeah. So that may be a development feature request, Rich, at some point, is just to have a TFN end date. But yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. But that you want to make sure that you check that end date as well as the start and end times of all of your messages, because that has, caused some head scratching, on a couple of cases for me.
Right.
So,
Well, like the next day, you'd be like, "Hey, I thought I set this up."
right. Exactly. Why isn't it playing? Why is it? Oh, the
Ex
time's wrong.
exactly. So I don't know, Barry, questions you want to throw out to the guys or people on the call? We covered a bunch of stuff and we've got a couple of guys here who, been arms deep into this and have some pretty good experience to give you real answers.
Sure. Anyone, if you have a question, you can press your space bar or alternate A, or use your little thing down at the bottom of the screen and raise your hand, and we'll call on you. If you're watching us on the YouTube Live, I'm watching that as well, and we'll pass the question along. So, any questions?
I see a couple in here in the questions and comments in the chat. Jeff asked, "How labor intensive is this after the initial setup?" Actually, even the initial setup wasn't super labor intensive. At least I didn't find it to be super labor intensive. And maintenance of it is mostly just maintaining the schedule of your messages. Just like any other traffic and billing system. Yeah. R. Miller, you made a comment about the black border could be intentional. And yeah, I agree. It does. It is kind of nice in some regards that it sets it off from the background. I've noticed that some receivers act differently when it comes to images. Some of them will in fact do things like that black border if it's not exactly filling the space that is specified. Some of them will even do like a little reflection underneath it and kind of offset it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the fidelity of the image actually, seems to hold up pretty well in general. So.
There was also a question earlier about whether the log export to the traffic system, but I think it's sort of coming. This is playing off your traffic system.
Y-
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well, Rich, in terms of traffic integrations, because I haven't really explored that far yet.
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple of ways. Um, if you want to schedule stuff in traffic, uh, we've got some APIs and we can interface backwards and forwards. Since some traffic systems don't uh, schedule visual images, what we've kind of done is put all the tools in here, like you saw with the schedule and so forth. You can get the logs that prove out when it ran. So I would say the level of sophistication that you want to integrate at probably ties to the level of sophistication you want for your advertising options. Meaning, some markets say, well, the simplest thing to do is I'm going to sell to one or two advertisers, and I'm either going to cover spot breaks. So when I go into spot breaks, I put up, and a lot of times they're attorneys or other kind of service related. We've seen medical is another big one. Industries. And so you sell to one person, you sell them kind of a 6 month or year-long contract. So there's not a lot to manage. Or it's like Buds, where you've got a key sponsor and they rotate with the other things. The ones that are a bit more complex is if you're trying to have a graphic image that goes along with a specific spot, and then you need to kind of track that. So I would say what we've had most people do is this is a little bit independent from traffic and billing, and that you can just kind of run it and you don't need to have a tie-in. But if you do want something more sophisticated, we have some APIs that can handle back and forth.
So there is one other system. I mean, we use, for instance, V Creative for all of
Yeah.
our spot workflow, at least in the Idaho market currently. But yeah, it would be great if there were like a tie-in for V Creative where you could just like check a box and say, "Hey, send this out on the
Yeah, so that's on the development list. So there's a product that I know, Bud, you have for your selling tools that we've started on.
Yeah, there's think of this. I mean, remember when streaming started and it's like, we're going to put the stream on, and people took outputs from their Optimod and fed it into a computer, into an 1/8-inch plug, and just made audio. And now we care more about the stream because the listenership is so high. It's the same thing here. We're really, I want to say, man, we're in the beginning of this great opportunity, and there will be more tools coming along. I would suggest getting a Sophia. The Ben and the guys have, that's a great box to be able to monitor other markets to see what they're doing. I wish I had one because there's some of my signals I can't hear and or see. And really I should just put one in the truck and have it with me. Um, but there is some logging in the system. Uh, once you have so many different options as to doing one message with one attorney, let's say, or I've got one station that's doing just that, or I'm kind of testing it with, Rhinebeck Bank and Tire Discount Center during the songs. It You're probably going to end up selling them as packages, and it won't be per play or anything like that. I don't think you want that. You don't want to make it so complex. Just say, hey, you're going to get, in every song, you're going to get exposure. Um, and people do look at the dash. There's a lot to look at on the dash nowadays. So
Yeah, good question. Oh, Barry, other questions that have popped up?
Well, I have one that I'll lay in your lap. Mentioned next gen and some of the other wide orbit and things. I know that you had a special deal on Audio Vault, and I may be out of date on this now, but is that still in
Oh,
effect?
yeah. So believe it or not, this year's 35th anniversary of Audio Vault. So we went out and filled up the Audio Vault area with helium balloons in celebration. But in all seriousness, we also did a couple of other things. So, I think one of the things we tried to take a look at was fundamentally uh, the cost related to playout software. And I think, if you look across the everywhere, things are less let's spend a whole bunch of money and have infrastructure software that we think is going to last 20 years and gets dated. And it's more of you spend a little bit less money and maybe you pay a little bit and you get updated software. So, yeah, we've kind of got some pricing that's a little bit of a TFN, Barry. And so basically, if you're running Audio Vault today, free upgrades to Audio Vault 11. So this gets you things like cloud-based backup. It gets you Audio Vault Anywhere, remote web access, and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you've ever been an Audio Vault user and you're, maybe wanting to look at something else, 99 bucks a workstation gets you to Audio Vault 11. And there's a lot of Audio Vault users. In fact, we ran one of the things on it, and public radio station called us up and said, man, we were on Audio Vault for 20 years. We left about 5 years ago, and I'm not really sure why. And I'm kind of pissed off at my current guy. This is great. And then there's also kind of a friends and family where it's like, look, if you've ever had any system, 495 and we'll get you on. So we tried to get rid of the big upfront costs. And, Bud mentioned subscription. If you don't want to spend anything upfront, I think we've got a $99 a month and you can get the software and it's the full-blown thing. We went through this. Do we do a light? Do we do this? And we decided, nah, even if you're in a smaller market, you really kind of want all the features. And so with all of our software, whether it be TRE Plus or Audio Vault, um, we don't jack you for more because you're in a bigger market. I mean, kind of our principle always was if you buy a 5 kilowatt transmitter, if you're in upstate New York or you're in, someplace in Kentucky or you're in New York City, a 5 kilowatt transmitter is a 5 kilowatt transmitter. They're not different. So we thought it was probably better to focus on selling cost-effective infrastructure for people instead of trying to get in the middle of the revenue stream and say, well, we'll charge you more because you sell spots for more in New York. It's like, well, yeah, but I'll guarantee you the rent's way more in New York than it is in all the other places too. So it doesn't necessarily mean you make more money. Yeah, thanks for mentioning, Barry. So those are going on. You can get information on the website, or go to the website or call one of our guys, and we'll be happy to sort out. The thing we ended up finding is there's a lot of guys who've been running some really old and wanted to upgrade, but always thought it was going to be a bazillion dollars.
Uh-oh.
It's Rich.
Yeah,
There he is.
You just
yeah.
froze for a second.
Oh, sorry. I was saying we did, you can buy your own hardware. So we're not, one of these guys where you have to have hardware. And we've tested the new Angry Audio USB audio gadget. So if you want to use that instead of an inside sound card, it's got really good audio performance. And so that's kind of a thing. So we tried to make it that we've got some great tools and we wanted to make them available to everyone. And we didn't want to really hold someone hostage that like, hey, I've got old stuff, but I need to come up with 50 grand to buy software to change out my AM FM combo. And so that's kind of where we're at. So thanks, Barry, for asking.
My pleasure. I want to thank you and thank Bud and Shane for the presentation. Any other questions from the floor here that haven't been answered? I mean, they went through this pretty rigorously and showed off almost everything I could think of offhand.
I had one kind of final parting little thing to share here. We've talked about the Inovonics Sophia, and many of you have seen it, but I'm going to show you really quick again one of my favorite features of that, especially if you broadcast in HD. So if you log into a Sophia and you go to this HD info screen, not only does it show you all the artwork that's going at once, but this is priceless. This information here. So you can actually see, and again, this is from my Logan market. I don't, so I'm only showing the logos being sent right now, but it shows you actually as the logos are being sent out. So you can verify that that data is in fact going out. No more just staring at a car receiver or something going, well, how come it's not coming out? Why am I not getting my logos? That to me alone is worth the price of admission. I mean, that has been just a phenomenal feature on these boxes. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Shane. We use that pretty extensively, Ben's product there in the testing and in the development. And yeah, it's a fantastic tool. So, we highly recommend, we've done really nice integration with the RDS generators, if that's something you need from Inovonics, and these receivers, of course, work with any of whether you're on HD or any RDS, that you're using. Otherwise, to your point, you're flying a little blind and you're off looking on the car radio. These provide a nice mechanism to get some verification.
Well, if I add one thing, Rich, first off, you remember the teleradio, right? This is when it all started.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I want to dial in with my touch tone phone over the telephone line. That's right.
yeah, and then you open it up and it's just like a little like Iowa radio, whatever in there. But the one thing I found with the Sophia, if you're in a market like what Shane's doing and you have multiple stations there, it behooves you to have this. It will send you alarms if something's not right. But just knowing that the data is there, it will help you when you're troubleshooting with a listener who may say they're not seeing something or whatever. You've got to have some sort of standard. There's so many different radios. The Inovonics is a great way of measuring, as Shane has shown here, the data. And when I was rolling out with a different company a system, I wanted to have all of these boxes there. I couldn't supply them all, but it helped immensely when troubleshooting, when messages would pop up, when they would go off. It was so valuable. I didn't have to drive to the market. So kudos to the guys at Inovonics for this. And seeing when the logo shows up, huge.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful.
All right. Well, Rich,
well, thanks, Barry. Appreciate it, and thanks for everybody's time today. And my appreciation to Bud and Shane, taking time out of their schedule. But
sure,
I kind of figured there's nothing better than guys who are actually using it versus, the dumb guy at the factory who's telling you how it should work. These guys will tell you what actually does happen and the success they've had. So thanks,
Well, that's really
everyone.
the basis of what I'm trying to accomplish here on these Thursday deals, that we want to learn something, and how best to learn, watch it, see it in operation.
Yeah, exactly.
So we appreciate that. Hope you'll come back with some more. I've got some questions for you that I'll ask you offline, but
Sure.
love to have you guys come back and tell us more in the future.
Yeah, well, thanks again for the invite, and thanks everyone for spending time. I know we covered a lot of stuff, but like I said, the thing that's so cool here is it's the first piece of engineering gear that I've been able to bring into somebody and say, I've got a way you can make money with it. Because usually we're talking about it'll sound better, it'll be more reliable, or the programming guys will have more flexibility. This one, it engages listeners and it puts money in your pocket. And it's kind of nice to show up with the boss saying, I've got an idea of how to make some money.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. See ya.
Thanks.